Hi, I'm Ashley Treavajo from Ashley Treavajo Mortgages, and you're listening to the S.M.E podcast.
You are now listening to the next great small business podcast. Welcome to the S.M.E Stories podcast, where it is all about small businesses in Canada. And here's your host, Ken Alfred.
Hey everybody, thanks for downloading the show. We got a great episode today with Ashley Treavajo. Now, Ashley is a licensed mortgage agent with Sherwood Mortgage Group, a published author, and most importantly, a mom of 2 small children. Ashley got licensed to sell mortgages in Ontario in the height of the pandemic with a newborn and a toddler in 2020. As a mom and entrepreneur, she knows firsthand the difficulties and stresses that those 2 groups have around home financing and the curveballs life will throw. She has also co-authored a chapter in the book, Honest as a Mother, Volume 1, and is going to be in Volume 2 later this year. When she isn't being a mortgage agent, she's spending time with her children and husband. So we're going to have a very interesting episode today, guys. So we're back in the real estate space, but now we're speaking from, in previous episodes, we've had it from the real estate agent side, maybe some of the investment side. Now we're actually dealing from the mortgage side. So it's going to be nice to hear what Ashley has to say and maybe some advice you can give to anyone looking to get in, to become a mortgage broker. So sit back and absorb. Let me ask you this then, really, before we get into our tips from the pro segments here. What has been your biggest failure, but also your biggest success so far?
You know what? The first brokerage I joined was phenomenal. I did switch to another brokerage. I had really high expectations of it, and I was there for a hot minute. Like, I got in, decided it was not for me, and going back to like being able to interview your brokerages, and I was just like, oh my God, as if I just left this great brokerage, joined this one, did not have a great experience. However, so like there's a lot of like, oh, why did I do that? I feel so dumb for doing that, you know? But now I've joined Sherwood, and now I've met so many amazing people. So I really truly feel like my little very small stint of that brokerage, and really seeing like, again, what priorities and values I have in my personal life. And it brought me to Sherwood because of some other amazing human beings that I met along the way.
So when someone's listening to this, they could have said, okay, you left a good brokerage to go to your second brokerage. You found out, like you said, for basically a cup of coffee, that it wasn't going to work out. I guess a lot of people say, well, why don't you just go back to the first one again? Is it something that once you leave a brokerage, not to say that you can't come back, but is there like a whole process, like I said?
No, I think there was like, you can totally go back. I left on amazing terms. You know, I never had a problem at my other brokerage. The second brokerage, like I said, I think I just had really high expectations. It's kind of like the selling dreams kind of thing. And I was like, oh, do I go back? I think a part of it was probably my pride, to be honest.
Yeah.
To be like, do you go back? Like, oh, you know, again, because it was like not like such a great move to begin with, you know?
Sorry to cut you out. Did you ever used to watch The Simpsons back in the day?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this. I used to remember watching as you know, 10-year-old, and you know, my God, now I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to mention my age now, but I remember there was an episode where the main character, Homer Simpson, decided to leave his company, he worked at the power plant, to get his dream job to work in a bowling alley. That was his dream, right? Because they had all the finances figured out, because they only had, I think, 2 out of the 3 kids at that time. So once they found out they were having the 3rd child, it threw the numbers out of whack, that he had to leave his dream job. And the reason why I mentioned the story is that it's a little bit touched upon what you were saying about maybe the pride thing, is that in that, I remember a screenshot, he had to go back to the power plant to go to apply for a job. And then you saw the main door that said applicants, right? So everyone knows to walk in. And then you see a doggy door for sub-applicants. So for the people who left the power plant that wanted to come back, they had to go through a doggy door just to try to reapply back that in. So that was my...
It's like you're crawling back with your tail between your legs, right? Kind of thing, right?
It's the same thing. I wouldn't like, when I'll try to make this fast too, is that when my wife and I decided to live together, just before we got married, right, I wasn't making any money because, you know, I was like, and she was doing her master's, I was doing a master's in project management, and you know, we weren't really making much money, right? Not much money at all. That my parents would, and I already kind of moved out of the house. We lived in a condo at Yonge and Finch here, and they were, you know, it's almost like my parents trying to give me money for it, and I wouldn't take it. just because you said the pride thing. Because I thought, all right, if I leave the house, I cannot come back. I can come back to visit and hang out, maybe do an occasional sleepover if, let's say, oh, our place is
Mhm.
getting fumigated. Can I stay? Yeah, something like that. But to go back and live was totally out of the
Mhm.
question for me because, like you said, I'm too stubborn and my pride will get in the way. But
Yeah.
anyway, so now we're going to get to our. Oh, we forgot to hear. You heard about your biggest failure, which is that second brokerage. What about your biggest success?
You know what? Honestly, I think my biggest success is just hitting over 2 years in the business with everything that I've been juggling. Like going into from a brand new career, like totally opposite industry. As I mentioned, my kids were 8 months and just about 3 years old when I first joined my first brokerage. And the fact that I've got through my husband teaching from home, lockdowns, no village to support lean on, and like virtual school last year with my junior kindergartner
Oh my
and
God!
everything.
Don't get me
Like,
started with the online
so
schooling.
like I know that's a really touchy subject for parents, but no, I think honestly, I think like that's my biggest success is that like I'm still here and I'm still pushing, I'm still grinding, I'm still showing up every
No,
day. So
that's great. That's great. So, hey, do you need an error-free website? Do you need transcriptions that's accurate and on time? Would you like to remove noise from your video or audio recording? Do you need a spokesperson for your business? If so, we can help. At Northway Capital Group, we are happy to announce that we are now providing website testing services, audio transcriptions, and audio cleanup, as well as spokesperson services. We would love to help you on your next project. Contact us for more information at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com.
Now it's time for tips from the pro.
All right, let's get to our tips from the program. So these are the people that want to get in as a mortgage agent. And now we're asking the actual expert, Ashley herself, what would be some of the things that she would pass on to the next generation. So if I want to become a mortgage agent, which is, I'll call it easier, not being easy as in learning, but to maybe get some short-term success, is it more on the residential side or the commercial side of mortgages?
I would say residential. Even though commercial, you can make a lot of money, they're a longer drawn out process, right? Whereas like if you think about buying a residential home, it's normally a quicker process. Someone's not going to go buy like a 10 mil plus commercial property in the next like 30 days typically, right?
Well,
Like
Ashley, let me tell you how my podcast is going. No, I'm kidding.
if you really think like it's more of a, so I feel like the commercial could still do well. It's more like the actual transaction from point A to point B from actual closing date, I think is a lot longer drawn out.
Okay, so residential there. And what do you find is the one that generates the most revenue generally for you? So there's the mortgages, and I think you said some of like the refinances as well. Is there any other, like what are the different ways a mortgage agent can make revenue for their business? Is it just
So yeah, there's purchases, which I mean, especially if you're living in this area, folks, some homes can be really pricey. So like if you're buying that home, some of the purchase mortgages are quite high. Refinances is a good way too. Even down here, some people are refinancing still at like 500,000 plus, where like I have colleagues that live in like Northern Ontario and their average mortgage is what, like 250, 300. And I always joke with them. I say, you'd be lucky to buy a parking spot downtown Toronto for that. Like, so definitely purchases, refinances, and possibly second mortgages. We do have access to some like home equity line of credit products too, which is an option. We are also seeing a lot of people are in our mortgage space are developing courses for mortgage agents. So that's another stream of income. So like they want to train mortgage agents on specific niches and whatnot. So I'm seeing a lot of that happening in the space.
Are you going to start creating your own course there, Ashley? It seems like a lot of entrepreneurs, they do their own courseware. Someone said, why don't I do my own course? I don't know if I want to do that yet.
I don't think so. I think for me, I don't know if I want to do a course. Also, a lot of people, so there's like the traditional mortgages, but then, and courses. And we're also seeing a lot of people going into like the podcasting realm too, as like, and some can monetize off of it, of course. So that's like another way to bring in
All
income.
right, excellent. Next question. How do you keep on top of the mortgage industry space? Like, what resources do you use? Was it magazines or online subscriptions, networking groups?
So uh, we have a couple Facebook groups that are for specifically for mortgage agents. There's like a newbie mortgage agent group, which is like really great for newer agents because you have some of the vets, the legends, if you will. They like chime in, so it's nice. There's a I love mortgage brokering, same kind of thing. There's also another really great one. It's called Women in the Mortgage Industry because historically is very male dominated industry. So, you have some of these like trailblazers and of women in the industry that are in the group and basically can ask like any question. And often you have people helping each other out, which is amazing. I have a mentor that I can go to who she's got like 20 years experience. So it's like, hey, have you done this before? Yeah, I'm trying to think of, and then yeah, networking is important, whether it's with people in the industry or outside. And we also get updated information and whatnot from our lenders too.
Okay.
So a lot of our business development managers for each individual lender, they often send us emails, tips and tricks, different products they have. They'll send us rate sheets. So yeah, that's all like how we try to stay in touch with it. I mean, it's been like it feels like it changes almost daily sometimes, right? So it can be challenging to stay on top of it, but those are kind of my go-tos.
Interesting. And so I think one of the questions here too is, if I'm a mortgage agent, do I have to become a mortgage broker or can I stay always as an agent? And what is your opinion on becoming a broker?
Yeah, you can always stay an agent if you want. A broker just gives you a little bit more responsibility. And my mentor often refers to it as like the agent is kind of like, your G1, right? Like you can still do everything, but there's a couple little restrictions, right? Maybe you can't do certain things. And then right? And then like a broker is like your G2G kind of space, like you can do more. Like for example, if you're a broker, often you can become like a team lead or you can possibly even open your own brokerage once. And like, so that's how I kind of look at it. So
is that the future for yourself there, Ashley, is to become a broker as well? Or are you very content at this point to stay as an agent? Because I don't know what the requirements are. If someone said, okay, I'm an agent, now I want to be a broker. Are you familiar with the steps on how to become a broker?
So yeah, there's further education to do the broker. I believe I'm trying to remember now. I think it's as long as you have 2 years as an agent, then you can do the course and write the exam to become a broker. It is something I've considered. I think, but right now I think I'm kind of content doing the agent thing because I'm doing everything that I want to at this point, and I'm licensed and qualified to do.
Yeah, because then if you're a broker, then you have to manage a team of mortgage agents, right? So, if you're dealing with a couple of kids right now, can you imagine dealing with, potentially more? And I'm not calling mortgage agents kids, but if you're saying that somewhat of a responsibility that, because they're representing kind of you, right? Because when you're a mortgage agent, you're representing a brokerage. So you want to make sure the people you're bringing on are going to do your name justice, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's just it. And I mean, I'm probably guilty of it as well. But like some of the, especially newer agents, sometimes they need a little bit more hand holding too, right? So like you just said, like, I already have 2 young kids. I don't know if I need to add more kids to my
grown-up kids we're talking about.
Grown-up kids, yes, grown-up kids.
All right, next question. Last couple of questions on Tips from the Pro here. So is there any special insurance a mortgage agent needs to carry?
So when you join your brokerage, you are required to pay something called errors and omissions insurance. I believe it's around $300 to $400 a year, but depending on the brokerage and whatnot. But basically, it's exactly what it sounds. Errors and omissions. It does protect you in most situations, unless you're committing fraud. But but like a little touchy there too. But that's our insurance.
Interesting. Okay, so definitely something to definitely have. Okay, what is your best strategy to deal with difficult? I'm going to call them clients, but maybe difficult difficult staff that you might have to work with.
You know, in terms of clients, I do try to like get them on the phone and do a bit of a discovery call right off the hop. And sometimes, you know, you can kind of get a vibe for if you're going to mesh with the person or not, right? And again, going back to being an entrepreneur, the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur is you can fire your clients straight up. Like, do you know what I mean? Like if they're really like, I'm talking about like being disrespectful,
Right.
rude, like I don't have tolerance for that, nor do I have time for that, right?
Right.
Again, I have like a toddler who likes to yell and throw food at me right now. So like I don't need again grown-up children doing the same, you know what I
don't
mean?
want
like
getting spaghetti
so
thrown at me by grown-up children. No one wants that.
yeah, no one wants that. Who wants that? But you know, like, so it's like you know, I think it goes. You try to draw and you try to attract the people that you know you're gonna mesh with. But it does happen, right? If and when that does happen, I mean, luckily I haven't had that happen where like I've had to totally be like, look, this isn't gonna work out. Bye. But yeah, it would be if someone on my team wanted to take over, maybe refer them on to them. But also do it with full disclosure, right?
I was always the sloppy seconds guy for any of the places I worked at. So if there was a difficult account, if there was the project that no one wanted, Ken will take it because I'm just a nice guy about it. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll take it on. Now, as I'm getting older in my career, I'm like, if you want to give me a project on something, I might have to say no because you got to tell me how much work is actually getting done. Because I've been burned too many times by saying, yeah, you know, it's not much that needs to get done. Just pursue just a small piece of work just to get to the end. I get in there and it's like a can of worms. What the hell is this, right? It's like Pandora's box opened, and now I have to redo almost everything that this person did ahead of me. So it's like, yeah, I don't know if I want to say yes to that. So, but
yeah, and you know, and I was just thinking too, I guess like whether if and in any industry, if it's clients, if it's colleagues, whatever, I think too, like when you're dealing with someone that may be a little bit difficult, there's also a difference. Is it that like maybe there needs to be like an education piece and maybe that's why there's a little bit of difficulty dealing with them, or are they just plain rude and disrespectful?
Yeah.
Because there's definitely a difference, you know, like lack of education or awareness of a certain job or task or situation is definitely different than just being a jerk.
Exactly.
You know, like.
Hey you, do you need a voiceover? Well, look no farther. Northway Capital Group has your answer. Commercials and explainer videos, AVR and voicemail, health and wellness, corporate training and e-learning, announcements, documentaries, and biography. Contact us on social media or email us at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com. Now it's time for the rapid fire round.
All right. So here, we'll try to make these last one here. We're in the rapid fire round now, so we'll try to make these ones faster and quicker. Okay. But you know what? I have a feeling this still might last longer than I expected. So, all right, what has been your funniest story so far running your business?
Oh, I think I think about just the nonsense of the pandemic and lockdowns. I remember my husband literally teaching grade 1 gym class in my living room. And I'm like trying to talk to clients. Then you got like like at a time, newborn trying to go to, like, it was just like, I look back in the moment, it was like, oh my God, this is insane. And now I can just kind of laugh at it. Cause I'm
can you imagine,
as if we did that.
Could you imagine if that was a Zoom call that you were doing and you see your husband doing jumping jacks, you know, trying to do, you know, the thing with the kids and your newborn and the little baby running around. You're like, well, maybe not babies running around, but you know, that whole time. Yeah. But that would have been normal at the time because
it was totally normal. Yeah. Totally normal.
Do you know how many YouTube?
But like I said, now I just kind of can chuckle. You just have to laugh at it because it's like, oh my God, we got through that. Like,
it's like if you look at now, if you YouTube Zoom calls chat with cats, how many cats have done the Zoom calls? And I had one podcast where they literally jumped on my lap while I was trying, and I thought the door was closed, but my cat was able to get in. So, all right, good to know about that one. And I know this one means a lot, especially is how do you maintain that work-life balance? Because like you said, husband, kids, entrepreneur, where it is like a commission based. It's not like you're getting like monthly retainers of revenue coming in. So how do you balance all that out?
First of all, I'm happy that my son goes to school full time in senior kindergarten, and we have a awesome daycare lady that lives across the street. So it's like finding those people and that village, so to speak, okay, bye. And it's just like, for me, I'm very open and look, like I tell my clients, I tell any of my like client people, colleagues, referral partners, I'm like, I have kids. Full disclosure, I have small kids. If I don't pick up the phone the second it rings, chances are I'm dealing with a meltdown.
Yes.
Like, the end. Like, there doesn't need to be any further, like, and the way I see it is, if someone doesn't respect that, bye.
Yeah, because
you know,
you can imagine if they have an issue with it now. I'm like, my goodness, what kind of people are you, man? Because if people don't understand at this point that a lot of people are dealing with a lot of things right now, it's not like you're rude about it, but you kind of told them up front, look, I got a couple young kids, so I might not be answering the phone right away. That doesn't mean I don't care about your business and I don't want to, or I care about you as a client, but just keep in mind, I have something to take care of and I will get to yours as soon as I can, kind of thing, versus, being like waiting for that phone to ring and just hitting it. It doesn't work like that. Maybe if you're single with no kids, sure, but not when you're,
And that too, like, it's tough, right? Like,
it is
life
tough.
Happens. So like with these guys, like, you got kids sick or whatever. It's definitely, like, I think just being open with them is just a way to actually bring a little balance to your life.
All right.
And calendars. I have calendars all over the house.
If it ain't on the Google Calendar, it's not happening. That's what I told my family and friends.
It's not happening.
Right? So, excellent. All right. Next question. What would the 15-year-old self be thinking you'd be doing right now?
Ooh, at 15.
15.
At 15, believe it or not, I thought I was going to be going into early childhood education.
Really? Okay.
I remember, I did like the placement in like a kindergarten class, all the works.
Oh, wow.
I've done like this huge, like, huge revelation in my life, apparently.
Now, let me ask you this then, a follow-up. What posters did you have in your room when you were 15?
Posters at 15. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Posters. What was happening when I was 15? That was like 2002, 3. I'm trying to remember. I remember having posters, but I think I was a little bit younger. But I remember like doing like having Hanson and like Backstreet Boys and like Spice Girls. Like, I remember those days.
All right. No, I had like, when I was younger, I was a big WWE fan. So I had like wrestlers in my room, some cars, some hockey photos, and and Bruce Lee. I was a martial arts fan. So that was always kind of funny. So, all right. If you could sit with anyone, living or dead, on a 15-hour flight, who would it be and why?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's tough. Honestly, I would love to sit with like almost any of like either my family that has passed or even my husband's family. I would love to learn more about our history, my family's history, but also my husband's too. My husband's Trinidadian, so he doesn't know a lot of his like backstory, and I'm just generally curious, especially now that like you have kids and you want to know about your background and your roots, right? So I would actually love to learn more about that.
You know who my two were? I'll say both living and dead. So if it was living, I would actually want to sit with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and just ask him, because for someone who never has to worry about money ever, why is he so driven to keep continuing, right? Like, it's like I don't know when the dude sleep. I mean, it's great that he works out. I mean, maybe that's the only reason, maybe that's the only relaxation he gets, but why, like, I guess maybe for the average folk, you want to be able to make enough money that you can kind of do almost whatever you want. But he's taken it to an umpteenth degree, where it's like, if people had, let's say, a couple $1 million, maybe they can probably get by and not do anything, as long as they don't go crazy with it, right? But for someone who is like worth maybe almost $1 billion, what
and he just keeps showing up in movies.
Yeah, he shows up in movies. He's running different companies.
He has like WWE returns and everything.
What drives you? But on the one that like you passed would actually be my late father, and just to ask him his idea on child rearing, because we lost him unfortunately before my daughter turned 1, so maybe back in 2013, 2013 or so. So I would have loved to
Okay.
see how he, as like right now, all right, I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. What advice
Hmm.
can you give me, Dad, from that I'm not hearing from Mom, to tell me how do you do
Yeah.
this thing, and how did you not strangle me when I was a teenager? That's another thing I kind of would like to know. Where if I want to, not to say I'm gonna strangle my son or my daughter, but just say, when you want to throw them out the window, like how do you deal with
Yeah.
with that? But all right. Anyway, so next question here: what are your guilty pleasures?
Hmm. Um, we watch a lot of like reality shows,
Really?
and I know like some of it's like really junky. Also, you were like saying like again, it's like so my husband and I we grew up watching WWE, both of us as well as kids, and every now and then we'll throw on like Raw and SmackDown and stuff just to see, and like it's just like so entertaining. And again, people are probably like that is garbage. Like, why do you need to watch that? But it's just like can be it's like that thing, I guess, too, as parents, it's like one of those things that you can throw on, you don't have to think about,
Yeah.
and it's there, and it can be
But you know
entertaining.
what? As a former, like as I said, my kids and I watch Raw and SmackDown every week. That is kind of like our
Yeah.
bonding moment. My wife
Yeah.
goes above her head because she never was a fan. But I've talked to a lot of
Yeah.
guests that are wrestling fans, and I'm meeting up with some friends, and our
Yeah.
kids, we're all going to go to either our house or their house. We're going to watch the Royal Rumble coming up end of January. So
Nice.
before you used to be embarrassed to be a wrestling fan, I don't think you can be embarrassed anymore, like to be it, because
Hmm.
like it's so big now. So I'm like,
Oh, it's
and it's very
huge.
family friendly now. So it's not like it's,
It's like it's kind of nostalgic too, right?
yeah.
When like I'm sure we're close-ish in age, but like you see some of these like legends return, or like oh my god, or
Yes.
it's like oh you feel it, right?
Yeah, you do. And I can appreciate it. My kids appreciate it as well. Like they want to go.
Mhm.
We went to our first WWE event back in, I think it was May of 2022 last year.
Okay.
Now, we were supposed to
Neat.
go. I bought their tickets back in 2020 to go to the first
Mm.
show, which got canceled. And then it was supposed to be
Yep.
the end of 2020, which also got canceled. So it was a great experience. But now they want to go to like a Raw or SmackDown. Have you looked at the tickets for Toronto?
No, but I can imagine it's like insanely
For
expensive.
the tickets that they want to sit at, because we
Oh,
went, they went,
front row?
yeah,
Like,
we went to the Oshawa Center, right? I think
hmm
for yeah, we went to the Oshawa Center,
one of the
and it was
live.
one of the live events, and it was only like maybe $300 total. Like we were, and there's the four
Okay.
of us, right? We all had our wrestling shirts on.
Yeah.
My son had a Rey Mysterio mask. It was great,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
But we were still on a dome seat, like a bowl seat, but you still had a decent view.
Yeah.
They want the floor level. It's going to cost you around $1,600 on a live event to get like that
On a
on a
live.
live.
So not even a pay-per-view.
Yeah, like I mean, we want to go to SummerSlam. I think there's rumors that it might be in Toronto for SummerSlam for Edge's last match in Toronto. We don't know if that's
Mm.
true or not, but they want to spend. Yeah, Dad, can we go to this? We want to be at the front row, like $1,600 for the
Are
four of
you
us.
mad?
Are you out of your mind? And that's not even like front row where you can stick your hand out and the wrestlers can high five you.
And they touch
Yeah,
you.
that could still be. You could still be on the floor seat, but if there's like 5 or 6 rows ahead of you, and then you, God forbid, you have Shaquille O'Neal standing in front of you or sitting in front of you, you
Yeah.
can't see a goddamn thing. But
Nope.
anyways, aside from that, off to that tangent. And I always make these last two questions that I think they're my bread and butter questions that I ask for the last part of it. If you can have a sandwich, what would be on it, and what would you call it?
Oh. I don't know. Like
Rapid, Ashley, rapid.
that's not rapid at all, is it? It would definitely have cheese and maybe some like chicken, some kind of like spicy sauce, some lettuce.
And
Yeah.
what would it be
I
called?
don't know what I don't know the Ashley sandwich.
There we go. Put it on a shirt. All right, last question here on the rapid fire round now is, what is your theme song and why? So that song hits, you're walking down the street, you're about to walk into your office, that song hits, people know Ashley's coming.
Oh. You know what? This song my husband and I came in like at our wedding, and oh god, I think it's by Flow Rider. It's Welcome to My House. You know that
Okay.
song?
I like that song.
Yeah.
I think the
I don't know the name of it, but
well, I'm just going to call it my house, whatever, because aside from
Yeah.
it relating to what you do, right, which is in the mortgage space,
yeah.
I know the Toronto Blue Jays used that song as well for a while, but that's interesting. So, all right, any final tips for the aspiring entrepreneur, Ashley, that you can give them?
I guess my two big ones that I've like learned and even sometimes still working through. First of all is like find your people, find your village, whatever industry you're in, find a mentor, find people that uplift you, support you, that you can go to for mindset help, any kind of help. I think that's really important as entrepreneurs. And I guess tying into it is like, don't compare yourself, right? Everyone's situations are different. Like, I've had a lot of like, even still, it's like, oh, I wish I was this far, or I got to that point, or whatever. But as I've talked about this entire time, like, I've also been balancing 50 different torches and hats, and they've been all on fire, right? So, so I think those are my two big ones. Like, find a village to support you. That saying, like, it takes a village. I really feel like it takes a village to bring up an entrepreneur, and also like get rid of the imposter syndrome and like just do you.
Exactly. No, that's great. And final, where can people reach out to you if they want to pick your brain on advice, or if they want to do business with you? Where can they reach you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Ashley T Mortgages, and on Facebook, Ashley Treavajo Mortgages, and you can find all my information there.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Ashley, for coming on the show. I know you helped out a lot of listeners here, so thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Do you have a small business story to share? The S.M.E Stories podcast is looking for entrepreneurs to share their tales of success, failure, and everything. If you're interested in being a guest on our show or know someone would be a great fit, please contact us at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com. That's northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast, which is owned by Northway Capital Group. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Northway Capital Group.